Hello everyone, I extend a warm welcome to all the students watching today's lecture. This is part 4 of my lecture on types of companies. In this I shall be discussing about the classification of companies on the basis of control. Many different types of companies can be registered under the Companies Act 2013 like companies limited by shares, limited by guarantee, unlimited liability companies, private company, public company, 1% company. And on the basis of control, we can divide the companies into holding company, subsidiary company, associate company, government company, foreign company and public financial institutions. Then their companies can also be divided on the basis of access to capital market, listed, unlisted. Then there are other types of companies as well, namely small company, dormant company, startup company, not-for-profit company, which is Section 8 company, and producer company. Today I shall be discussing about the classification of companies on the basis of control, and in this firstly I will discuss about holding company and subsidiary company. Now when we say the word holding and subsidiary, what comes to mind is that the one company is controlling the other. So, a company which controls another company or has a hold over another company is a holding company, and the company so controlled is called the subsidiary company. The definitions are given in section 2 subsection 46, and as per section 2 subsection 46, holding company in relation to one or more other companies means the company of which such other companies are subsidiary companies. And as per section 2 subsection 87, which gives the definition of subsidiary company. A subsidiary company or subsidiary in relation to another company, that is to say the holding company, means a company in which the holding company controls the composition of the board of directors or exercises or controls more than one half of the total voting power, either on its own or together with one or more of its subsidiary companies. So, these are the two requirements which make one company a subsidiary of the other. So, the company which is a subsidiary company, the company which is a subsidiary, the other one is known as the holding, and which is holding over the subsidiary, controlling the subsidiary, and the other company is known as a subsidiary company. So, now what does it mean by controlling the composition of board of directors? See, a company is considered to have control over the composition of board of directors if the company has power to appoint or remove all or majority of directors of the company. Control over the composition of subsidiaries board of director is because of holding maybe majority of shares in the company. It may also arise by virtue of provisions in the subsidiaries memorandum or articles, or maybe from a contract with the subsidiary which empowers the holding company to appoint directors to it, the subsidiaries board. So, that is how the holding company can control the composition of board of directors. The relationship of a holding company and a subsidiary company may exist where there is no share capital, there also the relationship is there. In such a case, there can be no question of holding more than half of the total voting power, which is the second requirement of being a holding and subsidiary. The holding company here shall control the subsidiary by controlling the majority composition of board of directors only, as controlling more than half of the voting power is not the question, since the company itself is not having share capital. Now, certain other provisions are there relating to holding and subsidiary company. A subsidiary of a subsidiary company automatically becomes a subsidiary of the holding company. That is another provision. See, if however the holding and subsidiary company enjoy separate legal entity, that is there. Even though one company is holding company, the other is a subsidiary company, both the companies they are two different companies and both have separate legal entity, and a subsidiary of a subsidiary is automatically becomes a subsidiary of the holding company. So, if A is the holding company and B is its subsidiary and C is the subsidiary of B, then C automatically becomes a subsidiary of A. That is how the holding and subsidiary relationship works. Then section 19 of the Companies Act 2013 prohibits a subsidiary company to hold shares in its holding company. Meaning that cross holding is not permitted. In other words, the holding company shall not allot any shares to any of its subsidiaries. So, subsidiary of course will allot shares to holding company. That is another, of course, a requirement, but it cannot be other way around. The holding company is not going to allot any shares to the subsidiary. That cannot happen. So, cross holding is prohibited in case of holding and subsidiary company relationship. Then Companies Act 2013 has put a restriction on the number of subsidiaries that a company can have. Restrictions on layers has been started in the company's restriction on number of layers rules 2017, which provides that no company shall have more than 2 layers of subsidiaries. So, that is a requirement. There can only be 2 layers, not more than that. Now, what we mean by layers is that, see, a company is having subsidiaries, maybe 4 subsidiaries, and then that is one layer now. Now, each of these 4 subsidiaries may be having further subsidiaries. So, those subsidiaries also become the subsidiary of the main holding company. So, the subsidiaries of the subsidiaries, now this is the second layer. Now, there can be further subsidiaries of these subsidiaries, this will become the third layer. So, likewise there can be many layers, but Companies Act 2013 in India only permits 2 layers and not beyond that. And the reason basically for permitting only 2 layers is that the more layers we add to it, the more complicated it becomes. So, it becomes very difficult to actually fix responsibility, to manage things legally. So, that is why there is a restriction on having only 2 layers and not more than that. However, the provisions of this rule, means the rule of having only 2 layers, shall not apply to to certain class of companies, and that is, it does not apply to a banking company, it does not apply to a non-banking financial company, it does not apply to an insurance company, and also it does not apply to a government company. Means they can have more than 2 layers, and that is allowed for them. However, the provisions of this particular rule of layer restriction shall not affect a company from acquiring a company incorporated outside India with subsidiaries beyond 2 layers as per the laws of such country. So, if a company in India acquires a company incorporated outside India, and if suppose that company is having more than 2 layers, then that is permitted, because then that particular company has been established under the rules and regulations of some other country, and there maybe the layers are permitted. So, if an Indian company is acquiring such a company, that is allowed, then in that case the restriction of layers is not taken into consideration. Next we come to the next type of company on the basis of control is associate company. It is given in section 2 subsection 6 of the Companies Act, and according to this section, associate company in relation to another company means a company in which the other company has a significant influence. So, when one company has a significant influence on the other, the other company is known as its associate company. But the thing that is to be kept in mind is that the other company is not its subsidiary company, okay, but it still has a significant influence on the other company, and it includes a joint venture company. Now, what is the meaning of significant influence? Significant influence basically means control of at least 20% of the total voting power, or control of or participation in business decisions under an agreement. So, at least 20% of the voting power, if it is under control of another company, then it is both the companies are associate companies. Control shall include the right to appoint majority of directors. Now, please note that here it is only the right to appoint and not right to remove, as in case of a holding and subsidiary relationship. So, control shall include the right to appoint majority of directors or to control the management or policy. Thus, if a company holds 20% or more of the share capital of another company, but less than 50% of its share capital, then it will be its associate company. It cannot be called its subsidiary company. So, this was about what an associate company means. Then after associate company, we come to the next type of company, and that is a government company. Government companies are defined in section 2 subsection 45 of the Companies Act. Now as per section 2 subsection 45 of the Companies Act, a government company is a company in which not less than 51% of the paid up share capital is held by either the central government or any state government or governments, or partly by the central government and partly by one or more state governments. So, that is in fact the requirement, that if not less than 51% of the paid up share capital is held either by central government or held by state government, or it is held in combination by central government or state government, then that particular company becomes a government company. Now, a subsidiary of a government company is also a government company. A government company can be incorporated as a public company or a private company. In fact, incorporating government company as a private company is more convenient, as it needs only 2 members. So, it is not that if it is a government company, it has to be incorporated as a public company. It is not at all necessary. In fact, it is more convenient to incorporate the government company as a private company, since the requirements are far less, since only 2 members are needed to start a government company. Therefore, in fact, originally almost all government companies were registered as private companies, and the name of all government companies shall end with the word limited, be it public or private company. So, in fact, the thing it means that they do not need to write the word private in its name, be it a public company or a private company. That is an exemption given to the government companies. Then there are certain requirements as to the appointment of auditors of a government company. Section 139 of the Companies Act provides that the auditor of a government company shall be appointed or reappointed by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. CAG is the short form of that. So, auditor of a government company is appointed by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Comptroller and Auditor General of India is a statutory body, statutory post of the government, and its work is to audit the accounts of the government companies. So, it is the auditor of the government company is appointed by this particular authority, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Now, the first auditor is appointed by Comptroller and Auditor General of India within 60 days from the date of its registration. In case the CAG does not appoint the first auditor, the board of directors appoint the first auditor within the next 30 days. So, that is there. If CAG fails to appoint, then board of directors appoint. In case of board's failure to appoint the first director, the members shall appoint the first auditor in an extraordinary general meeting within 60 days of the board's failure. So, if the board of directors also fail, then the members are going to appoint the first auditors. The first auditors hold the office till the conclusion of the first annual general meeting, after which another one will be appointed. And the CAG shall appoint, CAG means the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, shall appoint an auditor of a government company in respect of a financial year within a period of 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. So, within a period of 180 days from the commencement of financial year, the CAG will appoint an auditor. This is for subsequent auditor, not the first auditor. Subsequent auditors will be appointed by the CAG within 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. Then any casual vacancy in the office of the auditor is filled by the CAG within 30 days. In case the CAG does not fill the vacancy, the board shall fill the casual vacancy within the next 30 days. So, casual vacancy is a vacancy caused by the death or incapacity of the original auditor. So, anything which makes the auditor vacate the office before his specified period is a casual vacancy, and that is to be filled by CAG within the next 30 days. And in case CAG, meaning Comptroller and Auditor General of India, does not fill the vacancy, the board shall fill the casual vacancy within the next 30 days. So, in fact, this is about a government company. I will just once again recapitulate. So, as per section, it is defined in section 2, subsection 45, and government company is in fact a type of classification of companies on the basis of control, and a government company is a company in which not less than 51% of the paid up share capital is held either by the central government or the state government, or by the central and state government in combination with one another. Then a subsidiary of a government company is also a government company, even though it is not originally incorporated as a government company, but because of the reason that it is the subsidiary of a government company, it will automatically become a government company. And a government company can be incorporated as a public company or a private company. In fact, incorporating government company as a private company is always more convenient, as it needs only 2 members. So, that is why most of the companies, these government companies, have been incorporated as a private company only, and there is an exemption given to these government companies that their name shall end with the word limited, even though doesn't matter if they are public limited or private limited. But in case of other companies, if it is a private company, it has to write private limited at the end of its name, and if it's a public company, it has to write public limited at the end of its name. And then the auditor of government companies are appointed by Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and the first auditor is appointed within 60 days of the date of registration of the company. And in case of in case the CAG does not appoint the first auditor within 60 days, then the board of directors will appoint the first auditor within the next 30 days. Means after the 60 days expire, the board of directors will appoint the auditor of the company. And in case the board also fails to appoint the first auditor, then the members shall appoint the first auditor in a extraordinary general meeting within 60 days of the board's failure. So, extraordinary general meeting is basically a meeting which is a meeting of the whole body of shareholders, and it is held in exceptional circumstances when some decision is to be taken in between 2 annual general meetings. So, normally the meeting of the whole body of shareholders, which is held once a year, is known as annual general meeting, and in that annual general meeting all the major decisions where the shareholders are to be involved are taken. But in case some matter comes up which is urgent and which cannot wait for the next annual general meeting, then in that case a meeting of the whole body of shareholders is called, and that meeting is known as extraordinary general meeting. So, in an extraordinary general meeting, the board of within the members will call that meeting and will decide on the auditor of the company. Then the first auditor which have been appointed shall hold the office till the conclusion of the first annual general meeting. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India shall appoint the auditors of a government company in respect of subsequent financial year within a period of 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. Any casual vacancy in the office of the auditor shall be filled by the CAG within 30 days. In case CAG does not fill vacancy, the board shall fill the casual vacancy within the next 30 days, and when I say board, I mean the board of directors. They get the right to fill the casual vacancy. Then the accounts of these companies government companies are to be laid down in case the central government is the member of such company, then in that case the accounts, the annual report of the companies are to be laid down before both the houses of parliament. In case the state government is the member of these companies, the annual report and accounts are to be laid down before both the houses of state legislature, and in case both are members of these companies, state government also and central government also, then the accounts of these companies are to be laid before both the houses of parliament and also state legislature both. So this was about the government company. Then the next classification on the basis of control is foreign company. Foreign company is given defined in section 2 subsection 42 of the Companies Act. Now as per section 2 subsection 42, a foreign company may be, it means any company or body corporate incorporated outside India. So whenever a company is incorporated outside India, that is a foreign company. But there are so many foreign companies and we are not concerned with all those companies in the Companies Act. So why are we calling these companies foreign companies? We are calling these companies foreign companies because they are companies which are incorporated outside India, but it has a place of business in India, whether by itself or through an agency, physically, or through some other electronic mode. So it is a company which is though incorporated outside India, but is having a place of business within India. Okay, that is why it is known as a foreign company and we are concerned with it in the Companies Act. Or such a company, it is a company which conducts any business activity in India in any other form, and such a company is incorporated in a foreign country. Now what is the meaning of electronic mode? Electronic mode means carrying on business electronically, including business to business and business to consumer transactions, that is included. Then any web-based marketing, online services such as telemarketing, data communication services, cloud computing, etc. All these come under electronic mode of carrying business. So whether the company is carrying on business electronically or the company is carrying on business in a physical mode or conducts any other business activity in India in any other manner, that is a particular company which is called a foreign company as far as our Companies Act is concerned. Okay. So section 380 provides that there are certain documents which must be delivered to the registrar by a foreign company within 30 days of establishing the place of business in India. So what are the documents which have to be delivered to the registrar within 30 days of the foreign company establishing a place of business in India? The first thing is a certified copy of the charter, statutes, memorandum, articles of the company. Charter is basically the rules and regulations of the company, of its incorporation. So that has to be delivered to the registrar of in India for the information. And then the full address of the registered or principal office of the company, that is also to be delivered to the registrar in India. And then a list of directors and secretary of the company, that is to be made a comprehensive list, and that is also to be deposited and delivered to the registrar of companies in India. Then the name and address of the person resident in India authorized to accept on behalf of the company notices or other documents served on the company. So because there has to be somebody in India who shall be the person with whom the government or the authorities are going to deal. So the name of that person, the address of that person who's a resident in India and is authorized by the company to accept all these things, that person's name and address is also to be notified to the registrar of companies. Then the full address of the office in India which is deemed to be its principal place of business in India. So the full office of that place, which is the principal place of business in India, as is also to be delivered to the registrar, notified to the registrar. Then particulars of opening and closing of a place of business in India on earlier occasions or occasion. So if this company has also opened a place of business in India on some earlier occasions, then that is also to be mentioned again now. And if it has opened and has closed down somehow because of whatever reason, that is also to be notified to the registrar of companies. Then there has to be a declaration that none of the directors of the company or the authorized representatives in India have ever been convicted or debarred from formation of companies and management in India or abroad. So this is another declaration which has to be filed with the registrar, that none of the directors of the company or the authorized representative in India have ever been convicted or debarred from what? From formation of companies and management in India or abroad. In India also, whether they have ever been debarred, and abroad also, if they have been debarred ever, then that has to be brought to the notice of the registrar of companies. Then the company shall in every prospectus also state the country in which the company is incorporated. So that is a necessity. Whenever a prospectus is issued to the public, it must state the country in which the company is incorporated, that foreign company. Then also outside every office or place of business, its name and the country of its incorporation should be conspicuously exhibited in English and one local language. So that has to be there. Outside every office, it has to be properly exhibited, the country where this foreign company has incorporated. Then the company's name and the country of its incorporation should be stated legibly in English and in all what? Business letters, letterheads, papers, notices and other official publication of the company. So basically country of incorporation, mentioning that is extremely essential on every document, even on the office of the company. Then every prospectus, every advertisement, official publication, letterhead, business letter of the company must also state in legible English whether the liability of the members is limited. So liability, whether it is limited or whether it is unlimited, that is also to be mentioned on every document of the company, and it has to be mentioned in English, and it has to be mentioned in such a way that it is legible, means it is readable. Fine. So this is about the various requirements in case of a foreign company. Then there are certain penalties also which have been imposed by section 392. See, where a foreign company fails to comply with any of the provisions relating to companies incorporated outside India, the company shall be punishable with the fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh but may extend to 3 lakh rupees. So the company is going to be punished with a fine which will be from 1 lakh to 3 lakh rupees in case any of the provisions given in the Companies Act relating to the foreign company are not complied with. And in case of continuing offence, an additional fine of 50,000 for every day after the first day during which the contravention continues. So it is a huge penalty, 50,000 for every day during which the contravention continues, and every officer of the company who is in default shall be punishable with a fine ranging from 25,000 to 5 lakh. So there are two separate penalties, one in case of the company and the other in case of officer in default. In case of a company, it is 1 lakh to 3 lakh, and with the additional penalty of 50,000 per day if the default is of continuing nature, and in case of every officer, the penalty ranges from 25,000 to 5 lakh rupees. So there is huge penalty which is imposed if the foreign company does not follow the rules and regulations laid down in the Companies Act. Now with this we finish off with the types of companies on the basis of control. And this brings me to the end of part 4 of types of companies, and I hope all of you have understood. We'll continue with the remaining types of companies in the next part. Thank you all. Keep shining, keep learning. Thank you.